Good morning and welcome to Where Entrepreneurs Thrive. My name is Russ Nolte. I'm the Regional Director for KW Colorado. On this week's podcast, we're interviewing Marisa Lindsay from Colorado Springs to discover how she became the entrepreneur we see today and what makes her thrive. Marisa, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Good morning. I'm excited to have you here. Well, Marisa, let's jump right in. Tell us your story, what you did before real estate and how you got into this business.
Well, so I came from military. So I served for 17 years. First time was in the Air Force, and then I was in the Army at the end. And at the end of my military career, I was working as a marketing officer. And so when I decided to get out of the military and move to Colorado where I knew no one, I thought that going into real estate would be easy, which was just not great. But I did go from the military right into real estate. Didn't know anybody here. And so what I did is I used some tools that I learned from marketing with the Army and used that to kind of build my sphere here. And it paid off because I was able to do 48 units in my first year. But it was a scary leap from military into real estate for sure.
Were you the rookie of the year first year?
I wasn't. I didn't know anything about rookie of the year, but I did pretty well. I didn't even realize that I did well my first year. I was kind of the lone soldier here at my brokerage and had nobody to compare myself to. So I didn't understand that 48 was a good year. I had no idea.
That's brilliant. That's like a great strategy. Tell somebody, I had this agent once who thought the commission rate was supposed to be 8% for everything. Like she had just heard that. And what's funny? She was getting 8% because she just walked into the appointments and she was like, and I think we're probably violating some antitrust rules with that comment, but you get the point.
Wow.
It's all mindset.
You don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. So tell us, you were in military, you decided to get into real estate. What got you to KW?
Well, honestly, I initially went to Keller Williams to interview to hang my hat before I was even licensed. And I did like it. I was signed on to Keller Williams Partners, but at the last moment decided to go with this other boutique brokerage. I didn't go into Keller Williams until I was a year and a half in. And the reason why I decided to go with Keller Williams at that point is I didn't have a lot of support with my first brokerage here. My broker lived out of state. I was brand new still, trying to learn the ropes. And my mentor belonged to Keller Williams Freedom. And so at some point, I was like, what am I doing? Why am I hanging my hat here and paying this person when I'm getting all of my mentorship and assistance from Keller Williams Freedom? So that's what initially drew me to Keller Williams the first time. But then I did leave for a very small amount of time. And the reason why I decided to come back was for a completely different reason.
Let's go back a second. So you signed up to join a KW office, but then you ended up joining a different office.
Right.
But then you were being mentored by somebody at KW.
Correct.
How did you find that mentor? Like, why would somebody from KW mentor you when you were at the other company?
Sorry, there's somebody at my door right now. So the dogs might be barking, just FYI.
It's fine. Mine might start barking too.
So the reason this person actually just reached out to me, he was with Keller Williams Freedom and wanted to know how I was so successful in my business.
Yeah.
And never asked me to go to Keller Williams, never once. Yeah. He only mentored me. And this happened for months and months. And we grew a fantastic relationship. And I was just so appreciative because I, like we had just spoken about, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And he really helped guide me, on my journey with my clients, my client families, and then also to see what else was out there beyond real estate, beyond the transaction.
That's fascinating. So you eventually realized you were getting more value from KW than from your broker. you joined KW, but then after a little bit of time, you got wooed to this other company in the Springs for a short period of time.
Correct.
What did that company have that made you think that might be a better fit for you?
They had a really fun culture,
Mhm.
and they came across as very collaborative.
Mhm.
And so that was the initial lure, and
Yeah,
that's why I went over.
got it. And when you got there, was it what you expected it to be?
Mm-mm. No, it wasn't. There wasn't any room for growth. There was collaboration,
Mhm.
but I felt like I was just at a higher level.
Yeah.
So it was me feeding into the collaboration versus me gaining,
Ah,
and things that could help me in my business.
were you one of the top performers in that office when you moved over?
Yes, at the end, I was the highest earner in that office for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume that was not a national brokerage where even if you are the top in one office, there's somebody out there that you can collaborate with that's selling to you.
Exactly. That was it. And I am of the personality. I don't want to be the biggest fish. I
Yeah.
want somebody to chase after. I want somebody to learn from. And so although I wasn't the highest producer when we first got there, I was for the last several months, and I just felt like my time had expired.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What brought you back to KW?
So Adeleba, who runs Keller Williams Partners, had been in contact with me throughout my time at this other brokerage.
Yeah.
And he was just fantastic with, making sure that he met with me, making sure that I was continuing to leverage my time, which is something that I struggle with, but I'm learning.
Yeah.
And making sure that I know that he's there if I need him.
Yeah.
And so I just decided at the end of December that I wasn't going to grow any further. The plan
Mhm.
was to always come back to Keller Williams, but I wanted to come back in 2024.
Ah,
But at the end of December, I'm like, you know what? I've learned everything that I need to learn. We're going to go right now. So I talked to my team, spoke to them about it, got their buy-in, and then within a couple of days, we were back over at Keller Williams Partners.
interesting. So you had sort of said, I'm going to give this brokerage a certain amount of time
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that we get as much out of it as we can,
Right.
but we're probably going back there anyway.
Correct. No,
Mhm.
I knew I was going back there.
Yeah.
The end game was to go national. And I knew that the only way that I could do that was to attach myself to Keller Williams because they provide so many opportunities, that allow that. And so, but we grew too fast. Well, we not too fast, but we ended up growing quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 2023 is that we're moving back over right now.
Got it. So you aspire to launch additional teams across the U.S.?
Yes. So I'm in the middle of it right now.
Fun. Where are you going to go first?
So first we're going to Alabama.
Uh-huh.
I know that's kind of a strange location for your first spot, but one of my agents is actually PCSing there. And so I'm like, this is perfect opportunity to kind of soft launch, see what it looks like, and
Yeah.
then, expand from there. But we have 7 or 8 other places that we're honed in on
Yeah.
for the end of this year.
They say that people always want to launch in these sexy locations, but the smart people launch where they have talent or where they find talent. If you've got somebody great in Alabama, by all means, it's
Right.
a great place to go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we already have that trust that's there.
Mhm.
And she understands how we work, and she understands, the level of care that I expect out of my agents.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to expand there and give Alabama a little taste of what we offer, our white
Yeah.
coats. Yeah.
I love it. You want to come to St. Louis?
I should put that on the list.
Put that on the list. I can help you find people. So talk to us about your growth of your business. You came in the first year and sold, did you say 45 houses?
48 was my first year.
48 your first year. What has it looked like since then?
So 48 my first year, and then I was somewhere in the 70s, I think my second year. And
Mhm.
at the end of my second year, that's where I realized that I cannot attain, like keep this level of growth all by myself. There's no way
Right.
that I could handle that amount of clients. And so at the end of my second year, that's when I created the team.
Mhm.
And then in our third year, first year for HHMCO, which is my team,
Right.
we did really well. We performed wonderfully, considering that we even changed brokerages in the middle of it and then went
Yeah.
back to a brokerage at the end of it. So we did really, really well. And now, we're in our second year as a team, and we've grown really. We have several agents now, and of course, we're looking to expand. But Keller Williams has shown that there's so many. It's not a one size fits all when it comes to
Yeah.
this business. You can really pick and choose what you want to do. And then there's so many mentors that Keller Williams offers
Mhm.
where, if this is your goal, grab onto them and figure out what that looks like and what that looks like for you. And so I've really been able to do that. And I just really feel like right now, as we're talking, my team is on the brink of something really big. And
Yeah.
that's thanks to the mentorship that I've gotten at Keller Williams and the options that we have. We
Right.
can be business owners. I'm not just an agent. I am a business
Sure.
owner. Hmm.
I love that. Um, so Marissa, your team today, you've got a number of sales agents.
Hmm.
Do you talk about the operation side?
Okay. So I have a client care coordinator.
Mhm.
I have an operations manager who is also my lender, who's also my husband,
Oh,
and
wow.
family business.
That's tidy.
And then I have 4 full-time agents and 3 part-time agents.
That's great.
Hmm.
And what's your goal for 2023? I mean, how much you guys intend to sell this year?
We wanted to hit 200 for the year, and we're
200
ahead of
units.
schedule. Hmm.
You're ahead of schedule?
We are. We'll blow that number out of the water.
That's fascinating to me because the one thing we're hearing this year in our industry is everyone's kind of behind goal. And I think it's fascinating that you're ahead of goal. What do you think is setting you apart?
We, my focus for the team is creating relationships that create these repeat clients, forever clients. And that's what we've been able to do. So I am pulling out of full-time production as an agent, and I am just going to run the team. But
Yeah.
all of my business, all of my personal business this year, and I think I've sold over 40 or 50 homes, has all been repeat business, repeat or, referrals from my clients. And so we really like to focus on that as our
Yeah.
foundation. And so that means that we spend the majority of our mornings, connecting with people, making sure that they're okay, holding client events, things like that, just to keep that connection going, keep that connection really strong. Let them know that we're still here, even though they have their house or even though they've sold their house.
Right.
And so that develops a lot of business. And then on top of that, I am also very heavy social media based. So we have this whole network of social media pages that's not just here in the Springs, but all over the United States. And my motto is, I want to control the messaging. We control the social media, we control our messaging, and that's another one of our focuses this year is controlling the messaging and making sure that we're out in front of people all the time, no matter where they are.
So can you give an example of that? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like when you say controlling the message,
Mm-hmm.
what does that look like? What's an example of that?
So we run probably 25, maybe 30 social media pages throughout the United States. And I make sure that myself and my agents are constantly active on these pages. And if we're in front of people, especially if those pages are centered around relocating to the Springs,
Yeah.
if we are always in front, we're controlling that messaging. And that's just a little tip that I picked up from public affairs in the Army,
Uh-huh.
where you want to control that. You want to be the sole source of information. You want to be the subject matter expert. And
Right.
so we are that for so many people who we've never even met in person.
Interesting. So like, if I'm understanding you, I live in St. Louis. You could have a page here for people that's focused around people that live here that are considering a move there.
Yep, that could be one of them.
Yeah.
Or, another one that I like to bring up is horses. So running an equestrian page.
Right.
And if people have questions in other states about, this is a huge, we run a huge horse community here in the Springs, Black Forest area, and then further south. And so if we were to run a page like that and we had thousands and thousands of people on it, and somebody mentioned wanting to relocate and finding land, I could share information about what we have here in the Springs and, the greater Colorado Springs area. So things like that.
So you're basically creating a situation where if I like horses, no matter where I live in the United States, I'm probably going to find a page that you are controlling the message on that advises me that Colorado Springs is the right place for me to raise my horses.
Right. And athletics is another big one. This is a big place for people to come and train. So if I had a page that was based on CrossFit or running, because there's a lot of, the 100K races and things like that out this way. And if I was running that page, then I would be able to get in front of so many people without actually having to get in front of people. I call it real estating for introverts. I'm an absolute introvert. And so this is how I'm able to connect with people and how my team is able to connect with people without physically having to go around, shake hands, hand out business cards.
That is super fascinating. And how much is this costing you?
Nothing.
I thought you were going to say
an hour a day.
Yeah, an hour a day, and it's an hour a day where you're getting leads, but you're also involved in things that you enjoy.
Right. Exactly. I get to talk about things that I'm passionate about all day long, if I wanted to, all day long. And I can make connections with other people who are interested in those things. And I get to be the subject matter expert for those topics here in the Springs.
I love this. So you learned this from your time in the military.
It's very passive. It's very, very passive. And it's a great way to connect with people and then, let them know that you're involved in real estate. When I was in the Army, it was recruiting, but it's a fantastic way to make those connections.
I love it. So, so there's some people that are watching or listening to this, and they're thinking, that sounds like a huge investment of time. And it doesn't cost anything, but what kind of results can you really get from that? So I'm just curious, do you have any good stories about how, times where this worked at a really high level?
So imagine this. I moved to the Springs in the summer of 2019 and spent my entire summer doing real estate courses. My husband was deployed. I was here with our kids. I didn't get a chance to meet anybody. I knew nobody here. Got licensed in November. But I didn't get started right away because Thanksgiving was just happening, Christmas was happening, and I was still National Guard. So I had to drill in Alaska. I had to go there and serve for 1 month.
Goodness. In December?
In January. So I was in Alaska all of January. In my first 3 weeks as a realtor, as an active realtor, so the first 3 weeks of February, I already had 3 people under contract and a list of 80 people ready to move to the Springs.
From these strategies that you've been describing?
From these strategies. I didn't know anybody here. And everybody who I served in 2020, I had never met them until they actually moved here.
You're kind of blowing my mind right now. Okay. That is wild. What else do we need to know about that?
I mean, it's for me, somebody who I was really nervous about becoming a realtor and having to sell. That was my fear. I did not want to come across to anyone as pushy.
Mhm.
I didn't want to be, just salesy. I didn't want to be throwing my business card at people. And, you see those memes where, you overhear somebody talking about moving or selling their house and, the realtor runs over. I didn't want to be that person. I wanted to organically meet people, and I wanted people to come to me and ask me to help them, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And so I really do, I call it real estating for introverts. It is real estating for introverts. If you are nervous about sales, if you are nervous to approach people, to use you for their real estate needs, if you don't want to cold call, I've never cold called a day in my life.
Yeah.
This is a fantastic way to do that. And these are national pages. They're just out there.
Right.
And they're things that people love to talk about. If you're joining an equestrian page, it's not because you don't like horses, it's because you're well invested and you probably have property or you want property. Little things like that. So it was a way for me, it was an avenue and a tool for me to use to grow my business very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And it is time and intensive. I will not, let that, I'm not going to act like this is easy at all.
Right.
I probably spent 3 hours every morning for 6 months talking to myself on some of these pages.
Mhm.
But then they grew and they took off, and now I'm in front of tens of thousands of people every
Yeah.
day.
When you say talking to yourself, do you mean like posting
And getting excited because I had 3 views on my post, no comments, just
Yeah.
views. So it was a time commitment,
Mhm.
but it's paid off. There's one thing about me, no one will outwork me. I was willing to put in the time, put in the effort, and I would have rather done that all day than run around and have to socialize and be in front of people.
Right.
Right.
I love that. So now that you're, 4 years in and successful, and you've built a team, what does time look like for you now? I know you're married, you've got 4 kids. Does the way you're doing business now provide ample time for you to not do business sometimes?
So I'm actually just now pulling away from being an agent. The
Right.
clients that I'm serving right now, I have 7 clients under contract. After I'm done serving them with these, getting these contracts to the finish line, I am pulling completely out of being an active agent, and I'm solely going to focus on the big picture and getting HHMCOs popping up all over the US. And I'm excited for that. I'm a leader. I want to lead. I want to manage. And so it's allowing me to, instead of taking that skill and investing it into my clients, I am taking that skill and investing it into my agents. So I do foresee myself working just as hard as I do now. I'm up every day at 4:00 in the morning. I love to work. It's just going to look a little different. I'm not going to be running around showing houses. I'm not going to be spending hours of my day at home inspections. I am going to instead be uplifting my agents and getting them to reach their goals, whatever they are.
Love it. Marisa, we named this podcast Where Entrepreneurs Thrive. And we did that because back in October, KW kind of reformulated our purpose. And we said our purpose is that we're going to be the place where entrepreneurs thrive. When you hear that description of KW, I'm just wondering what that brings up for you. What does that mean to you?
You guys, this is why I came back to Keller Williams. Because I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to run a business. And it was impossible for me to do that elsewhere. There were no avenues for me to become this businesswoman that I want to be.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that people who are solely agents aren't running a business, but it allows for you to really come up with what you want your business to look like aside from just being an agent. And so I am really taking this and running with it and developing this business that I think will fit with myself, with my agents, with my family, most importantly. And Keller Williams, to me, it's such a gift to be at Keller Williams. And I'm so grateful that they've developed this system where I can truly use their tools and become successful with those tools.
I love that. Marisa, anything else that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share with our audience? We've got a couple minutes left.
I will say that if you are considering a switch over to Keller Williams, if this is something that you're considering, absolutely reach out to somebody. Reach out, find out what programs we have here. I wish I had done this sooner. I wish I had stayed with Keller Williams and just had never left. I would be light years ahead of where I am right now. I'm positive of that. I didn't do that. But I am so grateful that this is where I have ended up and this is where I have chosen to grow my business. And if you are at Keller Williams and it's just not working for you, try a different mentor, move around a little bit. Because you're not successful with where you are right now doesn't mean you can't use Keller Williams to be successful in other areas. So you just really got to play around with it and figure out what works best for you.
I love that. Well, hey, Marisa, I appreciate your generously sharing thoughts with us and ideas about how to lead gen. I learned a ton on this.
Good.
I'm going to go find your pages across the U.S.
Absolutely.
Super helpful. Thank you so much. See you next week.
Okay, sounds great. See ya.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.